Welcome to my channel. In my channel, you can watch various type of fiction and fantasy audiobook. If you want more video like this, please subscribe my channel.
High School DxD, 3 Years of Cohabitation. Part 4. Dulio Gesualdo opened a spatial channel, drew water from the mirror lake of light to help Luo Yu restore his holy power, and then pulled Cao Cao and the others back to avoid being caught in the aftermath of the Eternal Kingdom. Luo Yu creating such a huge commotion naturally attracted quite a few gazes. However, most of those gazes were filled with disdain. Just because you used the Eternal Kingdom to take out Hades, god of the underworld, you think you can kill Dragon Eater Samael. If Samael were that easy to kill, the gods would have acted long ago. Would it have ever been your turn, Red Dragon Emperor? Even Samael's creator, that primordial deity, struggled to erase this evil dragon. What kind of thing do you think you are, Red Dragon Emperor? This incident did not delay the gods on their journey. In their eyes, the Red Dragon Emperor was just wasting his effort. If he didn't leave now, he would know what true despair was once he was tainted by the Dragon Slayer curse. Boom. The entire underworld was shaking. It was exactly the same as when Hades, god of the underworld, and the underworld were erased just a moment ago. The space that had just been repaired was blasted into dust by the Eternal Kingdom again. The massive black void looked as if it were about to smash right through the lowest level of the underworld. Dragon Eater Samael let out a roar and was annihilated just like Hades. But soon, a ball of black liquid about the size of a basketball, the source of the Dragon Slayer curse, slowly condensed in the void. Seeing this scene, no one, neither Cao Cao's side nor the gods, felt surprised. Samael was just that kind of thing. It was impossible to kill, and its tenacity was on par with a primordial dragon soul. Otherwise, the gods wouldn't have just sealed it away. Now the Red Dragon Emperor should understand that Samael isn't so easy to deal with. Wait, my god. A main god of a second-tier pantheon suddenly stopped and exclaimed. Is the Red Dragon Emperor not afraid of the Dragon Slayer curse? He actually rushed in. Isn't that just courting death? Does he think he can be immune to the Dragon Slayer curse? The gods all stopped and watched, dumbfounded. The Red Dragon King dragged his massive body and charged straight toward the source of the Dragon Slayer curse. That is, toward that guy called Samael. He completely disregarded the fact that he might die if he touched the curse. But what happened next left all the gods stunned. That red dragon actually opened his massive mouth and swallowed the source of the Dragon Slayer curse in one gulp. Then, he tore through the space of the underworld and vanished without a trace. All the gods were stunned. Shiva's expression also shifted slightly. Is this Red Dragon King guy tired of living? The dragon race fears the Dragon Slayer curse most of all, yet he actually dared to swallow it. And he swallowed the source of the curse, no less. Is this guy really throwing his life away? Then, are we still going to the underworld? A main god of some third-rate pantheon asked foolishly. No one paid him any mind. Samael has already been eaten. What's the point of going to the underworld? The most important thing now is to find that mad dragon within the three realms. He must be found before the curse takes effect, otherwise it will be troublesome once he escapes. In an instant, the sensory perception of all the gods swept across the entire three realms. Weaker beings were so terrified they curled into balls. They had no idea what was happening. Why are so many gods suddenly staring at the three realms all at once? Hey, is this guy's brain waterlogged? Is Samael something you can just eat? Dulio Gesualdo had not yet recovered from the shock. He couldn't figure out what on earth the Red Dragon King was thinking. To actually swallow Samael. This was the first time he realized that the title, Dragon Eater, could actually be related to the act of eating. Find him. Find the Red Dragon King. Cao Cao spoke up. He found himself increasingly unable to read that dragon. Courting death. Impossible. It must be related to the previous conversation between the Red Dragon and those two heavenly dragon souls. After speaking, Cao Cao used the true Longinus to tear open the barrier of the underworld and pursued him toward the human world. Valley and Dulio Gesualdo followed close behind. Human world, Kuo town. Phew, master is really something, leaving without even saying a word. In the villa garden, Tsubaki Shinra stopped her sword practice. She took the towel handed to her by the maid and wiped the sweat from her forehead. She now had to not only practice the physical techniques taught by Luo Yu but also study the demonic knowledge Sona had shoved onto her, in addition to underworld magic. This period had been quite a torment for her, it was practically like living in hell. Every day was nothing but training and burying her nose in books. When she finally had a bit of free time, she still had to help the president organize student council documents. When would these days ever come to an end? Sister Rhea, senior sister Tsubaki Shinra. It wasn't just Tsubaki Shinra training in the garden. Rhea Kusaka was engrossed in a book on arcane magic, and Tsubaki Shinra was also practicing physical techniques nearby with meticulous focus. Tsubaki Shinra tiptoed up to the two of them and lowered her voice. Do you think Master might have eloped with that Sharon? I happen to know that as soon as Master left, Sharon also disappeared. These words were like a stone thrown into water. Rhea Kusaka's hand, which was turning the page, paused abruptly. Tsubaki Shinra's swinging blade also froze in midair. After a few moments, everything returned to normal. Tsubaki, Sharon just happened to go out at that time. If you keep spouting nonsense, be careful that the president doesn't hear you, or today's training will be increased again. You still haven't finished the training task the president punished you with yesterday. Rhea Kusaka, kindly, reminded her. Ever since they entered Kuo Academy and joined the student council, Sona had instructed them not to call her master's wife at school, but just president. Tsubaki Shinra and Rhea Kusaka didn't have any objections. Tsubaki Shinra would be even less likely to object. She felt uncomfortable just hearing the term master's wife, let alone saying it out loud. At the mention of extra training, Tsubaki Shinra's heart skipped a beat. But she looked around, confirmed the president wasn't there, and couldn't help but mutter. I just feel like the relationship between Master and that Sharon is unusual. To this day, she still remembered that Sharon's bold and explicit self-introduction when they first met. Tsubaki Shinra, who was practicing physical techniques nearby, felt a wave of irritation. She had an instinctive aversion to that Sharon, even more severe than Sona's. Ever since she saw her once, she especially couldn't stand that woman who was always clinging to Master. Tsubaki Shinra was just trying to suppress the irritation in her heart and continue her physical training. Suddenly, several authoritative gazes swept over them, like judgment from the firmament, cold and ruthless. An immense pressure weighed down on their hearts. Their bodies trembled, and they didn't dare to move, feeling as if all their secrets were laid bare by those gazes. After quite a while, once the gazes completely moved away from them, Rhea Kusaka and Tsubaki Shinra stumbled and fell to the ground, their eyes filled with panic, cold sweat soaking their backs. They had no idea what had happened. Tsubaki Shinra's strength was roughly on the level of a high-class devil, a cut above Tsubaki Shinra and Rhea Kusaka, but she couldn't hide the fear in her eyes either. She could clearly feel that those projected gazes didn't take them seriously at all. To the owners of those gazes, people like them were no different from ants. Gulp. That was too terrifying. Senior sister Tsubaki Shinra, what on earth were those things? Tsubaki Shinra took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down, swallowed hard, and asked. She was genuinely stunned with fright, and Rhea Kusaka nearby wasn't doing much better. The panicked expression on her face didn't fade for a long time. Those were the gods patrolling the three realms. Before Tsubaki Shinra could speak, a cold voice came from behind them. President, you said those were the gods. Was that terrifying gaze from just now the gods looking at us? Tsubaki Shinra turned her head and saw Sona standing there with a furrowed brow. Her heart was still racing, so she quickly asked. That's right. Sona nodded, looked at the sky with a serious expression, and said, the main gods and god kings from the myths have all come out. Is something major about to happen? Rhea Kusaka looked puzzled. She remembered Master saying before that the main gods and god kings of the major pantheons usually stayed in their divine realms to guard them, and unless something earth-shattering happened, they wouldn't leave their divine realms easily. Tsubaki Shinra thought the same thing. She had been to quite a few pantheons and knew that those god kings and main gods, even within their divine realms, were elusive and rarely seen. Now that they had all come out, something big must have happened. Just now, the Cetri clan sent word. The four great emperors attacked the underworld and forcibly erased the underworld along with Hades, god of the underworld. From today on, the underworld will cease to exist in the three realms. Sona's voice was low, her tone carrying an indescribable gravity. The underworld and Hades, god of the underworld, were both wiped out. This news struck like a bolt of lightning from the blue. Tsubaki Shinra, and Raya Kusaka were all filled with shock. Tsubaki Shinra and Raya Kusaka had been reincarnated as devils for some time, so of course, they knew that the underworld was the lowest level of the underworld, governed by the famous Hades, god of the underworld, from Greek mythology. Moreover, judging by the president's implication, Hades was one of the top 10 strongest beings in the world. A deity who had lived from ancient times to the present had actually been killed by the four great emperors, with not even the underworld left remaining. It was simply unbelievable. The four great emperors, those four people who developed their sacred gear to the limit. Tsubaki Shinra's eyes were dazed as she muttered to herself. She herself possessed a divine artifact, so she understood that the four great emperors stood at the very pinnacle of all divine artifact wielders. But she never imagined that they would be this strong, far exceeding her imagination. To actually do something like this, using a sacred gear to personally slay a god. Sona had not yet recovered from the shock when the intelligence sent by the Cetri clan pierced into her mind like a knife. The strength of the four great emperors was already strong enough to shock the entire three realms. Compared to the four devil kings of the underworld, they were not far behind. Especially that red dragon emperor, who was simply outrageously strong. Bang! While Tsubaki Shinra and the others were still digesting this news, a loud explosion suddenly burst in the sky above Kuo town. Sona suddenly lifted her head, her eyes wide. The azure sky cracked open at that moment. A massive white dragon claw reached out from the crack. The claw was entwined with a black aura that looked wrong. The sky was like a mirror, torn apart viciously by that claw. The space of the human world was as fragile as paper, shattering into pieces. The sky over the entire Kuo town became a pitch-black void. A massive figure slowly emerged from that black mist. Sona's pupils constricted. Rias Grimori was also frozen in place, Akano Himahima clenched her fists, and Kaniko's breath stopped for an instant. The ordinary people in the town were all tilting their heads back, the expressions on their faces looking as if they had seen a ghost. The figure became clearer and clearer. A body nearly 100 jong long spanned the sky above Kuo town. It was a dragon. A holy white dragon, its scales like meticulously polished jade, layered one over another, seamless and tight. It lowered its dragon eyes, overlooking the entire town below. Just moving its body slightly caused the space that had just been repaired to shatter once again. Yet, the black aura seeping from the gaps in its scales made it look like it was suffering from a severe illness. Even so, when such a behemoth stands above your head, even if it does nothing, you can still feel the sense of despair. Kuo town was silent for a second. Then, all sorts of noises erupted. Dragon, it's a dragon. Something from mythology, it actually exists. Impossible, how could there be such a huge dragon in this world? I don't believe it. This must be fake, it must be. Run. That thing is about to fall. Hurry, run. Some people looked up, staring at the shadow blotting out the sky, their legs shaking uncontrollably, rooted to the ground, unable to move. There were a few who refused to believe it, muttering about how it was impossible, refusing to admit what they were seeing even if it killed them. Most people couldn't care about anything else and just ran for their lives. The giant dragon in the sky was descending, and the air pressure it brought down bore down on them like a mountain. The streets were full of people, pushing and shoving, stepping on each other, pushing one another. A sea of people in complete chaos. Some couldn't even tell which way to go, bumping into others, tripping, and falling face first into the dirt. Curses filled the air, with every kind of foul language imaginable. When despair comes crashing down, the last string in people's hearts snaps. Every ugly side of humanity was exposed. On the other side, inside the villa of Rias Grimori, she widened her eyes, her pupils trembling. That is the Red Dragon Emperor. It looked exactly like the thing in the footage sent from the clan. How could the Red Dragon Emperor that devoured Dragon Eater Samael suddenly appear in Kuo town? This made no sense at all. If he moved even a little, the entire town would be finished. With a deafening boom, the entire ground shook. When that wind pressure swept over, those flimsy old houses simply collapsed in a heap. The glass on the windows shattered everywhere. He has landed. Rias Grimori could hardly believe her eyes. The giant dragon was right in front of her, so close she felt she could touch it if she reached out. That holy aura made her feel completely uncomfortable, a chill seeping into her very bones. No. She snapped back to reality. She had made a mistake. The dragon's body was so massive that she thought it had landed on her own villa. In fact, the place where it landed wasn't far from her. It was Sona. Rias Grimori looked closely and saw the massive body of the Red Dragon Emperor had crashed onto Sona's villa. Not next to it, but directly on top of it. She could already see a large portion of the house over there crushed. Rias Grimori immediately spread her devil wings, wanting to fly towards Sona. But before she could move, Akino Himahima beside her was even more anxious. Ah you! She shouted with a sobbing tone. She had already rushed out, lightning crackling around her, her speed pushed to the limit. Rias Grimori assumed Akino Himahima was worried about Luo Yu who lived at Sona's place, and without thinking too much, she hurried to follow. Sona's villa had already become a ruin. Fortunately, no one was hurt, and no devils were affected. At most, they were covered in dust. President, what do we do? Tsubaki Shinra cried out with a sob. The giant dragon had appeared without warning, its massive body almost blotting out the sky, and just that holy sense of oppression made their skin sting. Tsubaki Shinra drew her long blade, staring fixedly at the behemoth in front of her. But just resisting this aura made her hand gripping the sword hilt tremble, let alone swinging it. For a moment, even Sona was stunned. This is the Red Dragon Emperor. She, Tsubaki Shinra, and Butler Izumi had just been discussing the four great emperors, who would have thought this thing would suddenly run to Kuo town. There was no warning at all. Young lady, please leave quickly, I will hold him off for a moment. Butler Izumi lunged in front of Sona, blocking the front firmly. Among those present, he was the strongest, even if he could only hold on for a blink of an eye, it could buy time for the young lady and her peerage to escape. He didn't believe the Red Dragon Emperor was just passing by. A super devil who looks down on all living things. Whenever one appears in front of you, nothing good ever comes of it. Would a person care if they stepped on a few ants while walking? No. And in front of such an existence, they were just ants. Regardless, the young lady must not be harmed. Wait, Butler. Sona bypassed him and walked forward a few steps. Young lady, you. Butler Izumi was anxious. How could the usually calm and rational young lady be acting so foolishly at a time like this? Sona took a deep breath, trying to steady her mind. She stared at the black miasma wrapping around the Red Dragon Emperor, the legendary Dragon Slayer curse. If they tried to break out according to the butler's plan, there might be a glimmer of hope, but truly only a glimmer. Butler Izumi, the maids, and her two peerage members, Tsubaki Shinra and Rei Kusaka, would all be dragged into it. They were too weak. This was a result she absolutely could not accept. Instead of that, it was better to try and talk to the other party, maybe everyone could survive. Red Dragon Emperor, I am Sona Citri, heir to the House Citri, and the younger sister of the Mauserifal Leviathan. She stated her identity first. Is there anything I can help you with? You look like you are in pain. The massive body trembled slightly. The dragon claw reached toward her, scaring everyone into changing their expressions, with Butler Izumi ready to risk his life. But the next second, everyone was stunned. That dragon finger gently tapped on her head, as if trying to express something. Sona was also dumbfounded. Before anyone could react, a voice full of worry came from behind. Ah you. Akino and Tsubaki Shinra were both bewildered. Their master was clearly not in Kuo town, Wasn't Akino the one who knew that best? Yet she had disregarded the danger and rushed over. Ah, are you okay? The moment Akino Himahima landed, she retracted her devil wings and rushed hurriedly to the front of the behemoth. She had seen Luo Yu's holy light dragon form. Although it was several sizes larger now, the general outline hadn't changed. This was definitely Ayu. Akino. Rias Grimori had also arrived, seeing Akino acting recklessly, actually calling out to the Red Dragon Emperor. She was scared pale and wanted to rush up to stop her. Fearing that the Red Dragon Emperor would be annoyed and swat her down with a claw. But before she could move, a deafening voice rang out. I'm fine, the Dragon Slayer curse can't kill me. This voice was too familiar, so familiar that everyone was dumbfounded. Sona stood there stunned. Tsubaki Shinra was also stunned. Rias Grimori was frozen there. Butler Izumi and the maids were all completely dumbfounded. Isn't this their son-in-law's voice? Luo Yu. Sona was stunned for a long time before she stuttered out those two words. It's me. The booming voice rang out once again. Tsubaki Shinra and the others looked at each other, confirming that what they had just heard wasn't an illusion. This terrifyingly large dragon was truly their master, Luo Yu. Butler Izumi's head buzzed, and suddenly he understood everything. If the son-in-law of the House Citri was truly the Red Dragon Emperor who had just killed Hades, god of the underworld, then all the previous matters made sense. For example, the indescribable sense of crisis he felt in his heart. Before, he thought it was trouble caused by the holy sword left behind by that personage. Now it seemed that wasn't the case at all. That personage might not even compare to his own junior. Rias Grimori's body went limp, and she almost fell. Luo Yu was actually the Red Dragon Emperor. The very same Red Dragon Emperor who had just slaughtered Hades, god of the underworld. No wonder you could say those things. Rias Grimori recalled the words Luo Yu had said when he killed Yuto at the church. Thinking about it now, that wasn't arrogance at all. That was the attitude a powerhouse should naturally have. Rias Grimori knew clearly in her heart that she would never be able to seek justice for her peerage member Yuto in this lifetime. Whoever is strong, they are the justice. These words were relayed to her by Sona. She heard it was said by Luo Yu. Didrag, release the holy light dragon state. As soon as Luo Yu finished speaking, his massive body began to shrink rapidly. Sona and the others instinctively stepped back. Before long, Luo Yu's size shrank from over 100 jong to over 30 jong. This was his normal size. Then, he transformed back from his holy light dragon form into human shape. It really is master. Tsubaki Shinra looked at the familiar face slowly becoming clear, and only then dared to confirm that the person in front of her was indeed her master. A dragon. So master wasn't a human either, but a dragon species. As soon as Luo Yu turned back into human form, Akino Himahima, Tsubaki Shinra, and Sona immediately rushed to his front. Ah, you promised me that you would come back safely. Akino Himahima's eyes were red, staring at Luo Yu who was wrapped in black miasma. She saw the veins on his forehead bulging, and his shoulders were trembling. Having spent so long with Luo Yu, Akino Himahima could tell at a glance that he was currently enduring immense pain. That kind of pain was something a normal person could never endure. Didn't I come back just fine? Luo Yu forced a smile, pretending to be fine, and reached out to gently wipe the tears from Akino Himahima's face. But the more he wiped, the more there were. Women seemed to be like that, unable to stop their tears. Back. Luo Yu, you call this coming back? Sona raised her voice and yelled at Luo Yu. She suppressed the sadness in her heart, staring at him with a choked voice. If you, the Red Dragon Emperor, don't want to be my, Sona's, fiancé or the son-in-law of the House Citri, you could have just said so, there was no need to treat yourself this way. Master. Tsubaki Shinra's eyes were full of worry and heartache, also carrying the same reproach as Sona, as if blaming him for being so willful. What the Dragon Slayer curse was, Tsubaki Shinra, having trained outside for so long, was of course very clear about. That was the fatal weakness of all dragon species. Once a dragon was tainted by it, there was basically no path to survival. Master, He swallowed the entire Dragon Eater Samael. This. Not far away, Tsubaki Shinra and Rei Kusaka were also looking worried. The two of them didn't yet know what the Dragon Slayer curse meant for dragon species. If they knew, it wouldn't be as simple as just being worried. Rias Grimori's expression was particularly complex. Butler Izumi and the maids were also full of pessimism, sighing, unable to bear looking at Luo Yu anymore. Luo Yu looked at the three women in front of him, feeling quite a headache. His swallowing of Dragon Eater Samael was simply not what they thought, running off to die. Luo Yu tilted his head and sneered. If he really wanted to die, who would choose such a cowardly way? Since he was throwing his life away anyway, he would at least have to drag a few super devil who displeased him to the grave to make it worth it. That was more like his style. You don't have to. Luo Yu had just wanted to speak to appease the three women behind him, but before he could finish, his gaze suddenly turned cold. Crimson Dragon Holy Sword was already in his hand before anyone noticed. He held the blade horizontally, shielding Sona and the others behind him, aiming at the blue sky that had just closed up again. You came quite quickly. Luo Yu's voice carried a bone-chilling coldness. Zeus, you are the only super devil left in the Greek pantheon. Do you want to end up like Hades? The cold, sharp shout exploded in midair. As soon as the words fell, the cloudless sky suddenly changed color. Countless bolts of lightning surged from all directions, converging into a churning sea of thunder. That thunder was countless times more violent than the lightning in the mortal world, and the space that had just been repaired was shattered once again. In Kuo town, those who had never believed in gods completely broke down. First, a giant dragon from mythology appeared, and now, it was Zeus, king of the Greek pantheon. The overwhelming, destructive thunder could not be fake. People huddled in their homes, middle-aged, elderly, and young alike, all knelt on the ground, trembling, praying frantically to the gods filling the sky. They begged them to show mercy and let them survive this catastrophe. Red Dragon Emperor. Zeus walked out from the thunder, his physique terrifyingly burly. Those unruly bolts of lightning were as docile as sheep in front of him, not daring to overstep in the slightest. With the Dragon Slayer curse on you, how much strength can you have left? Luo Yu's face was full of madness. You can certainly try. He smiled somewhat grimly. Try and see if I can drag you, the king of the Greek pantheon, to the grave before I breathe my last. Diedrag had once said that Luo Yu was a mad and extreme person at his core, but it was usually hidden beneath his calm exterior and rarely revealed. Zeus frowned. He had held back earlier out of concern for the foundation of the Greek pantheon. But things were different now. The Red Dragon Emperor had been struck by the Dragon Slayer curse. This was a rare opportunity. The Red Dragon Emperor, possessing the combat power of a super devil and harboring deep hatred for the Greek pantheon, was definitely a major threat if left alive. However, the problem was that he couldn't be sure if Luo Yu was bluffing or if he truly had the means to drag him down together. He could not take that gamble. Just as Zeus was hesitating, three figures suddenly tore through the thunder and surrounded him. Now, there was no need to hesitate. Stand down, Zeus. Cao Cao gripped the true Longinus, the tip pointing directly at Zeus, his voice as cold as shards of ice. Dulio Gesualdo and Valley simultaneously entered their strongest states, their power surging, ready to attack Zeus at any moment. Zeus glanced at Cao Cao and spoke coldly. You are Indra's disciple. I hope you understand what you are doing. Cao Cao's expression did not change, and his tone was calm. He is him, and I am me. What I, Cao Cao, want to do does not require anyone's guidance, not even my master's. These words were spoken with ironclad resolve. Zeus snorted coldly, his gaze falling on Luo Yu, his voice as cold as a blade. Red Dragon Emperor, I will watch you from the heavens, watching you be slowly tortured to death by the curse. After speaking, lightning burst around Zeus, and his figure instantly vanished into the horizon. After he left, the sky that had been shattered by the thunder began to slowly heal. TCH, this guy is even more pretentious than I am. Dulio Gesualdo curled his lip in the direction where Zeus had disappeared. He had originally felt that his previous appearance as the Thunder Emperor was flashy enough and carried enough pressure. But seeing this today, Zeus was truly worthy of being the god of thunder. His entrance was a sky-covering ocean of thunder, an aura that made one's legs go weak. Compared to him, his own display wasn't even worth mentioning. Valley said indifferently. No matter how big the display, if your strength is lacking, it's just a joke. He really couldn't understand why Dulio Gesualdo liked these flashy, superficial things. Fighting should be clean and efficient, solve the problem with one punch. Making such a scary display only to be knocked down in one move, that would be truly embarrassing. Dulio Gesualdo waved his hand, looking disdainful. White Dragon Emperor, you don't understand. This is called subduing the enemy without fighting. Valley couldn't be bothered to waste words with him and immediately descended with Cao Cao toward Luo Yu's location below. Below, Rias Grimori and Sona and the others watched as Cao Cao, Valley, and Dulio Gesualdo slowly descended. They then glanced at Luo Yu, who was suffering from the curse. They never expected that in their lifetime, they would see the four great emperors who stirred up the three realms with their own eyes. These four people had just destroyed the underworld and Hades not long ago, and just now, they had forced Zeus, the king of the gods, to retreat with a single word. Butler Izumi and the newly arrived butler stood to the side, their faces full of shock. The unparalleled heroes of all ages. This was the only thought in their minds. Rias Grimori and the others were even more shocked. They couldn't help but wonder if these four guys were really of the same generation as them. Could they be some old monsters pretending to be young? Rias Grimori and the several underworld devils kept staring at Valley. To be precise, it was the 6 pairs of devil wings on his back. That was a mark only the royal family possessed. The mark of the devil king Lucifer. The White Dragon Emperor, Valley. A descendant of the first devil king. Many devils in the underworld still regarded the first devil king Lucifer as their faith. His status in the hearts of those people was terrifyingly high. The White Dragon Emperor combined with the descendant of the first devil king. This was by no means a good thing for the underworld. Even if one were to be overly suspicious, it was necessary to be on guard. You shouldn't have come. The black energy of the Dragon Slayer curse on Luo Yu was growing thicker and thicker, almost enveloping his entire body. I just told Zeus, whether I come or not, it's not up to you, Red Dragon Emperor, and it's not up to my master. Cao Cao's manner of speaking was as arrogant as ever. He spun the true Longinus with a flourish and deactivated his balance breaker state. Remember, you owe me a favor. Fine. Luo Yu curled the corner of his mouth, agreeing readily. And me, what about me? Dulio Gesualdo leaned in toward Luo Yu, blatantly wanting to solicit a favor. Luo Yu looked at him with a half-smile. The expression was just short of writing. You weakling, what are you dreaming about? Dulio Gesualdo feigned a heartbroken look. You really have no conscience, I'm only a little bit weaker than you. Do you have to bring this up every time? By the way, Red Dragon Emperor, who are these beauties? Dulio Gesualdo asked curiously. My fiancé, Sona Citri. These are my disciples. And my childhood friend, Akino Himahima. Luo Yu gave a brief introduction. Surnamed Citri. The younger sister of the Devil King Seraphal Leviathan. I really couldn't tell, you're actually a son-in-law of House Citri. There was teasing in Dulio Gesualdo's words. However, the fact that there were 2 Devil King's sisters present, especially the red-haired one over there who was the sister of the current Devil King Lucifer, was something Cao Cao and the others hadn't expected. The current Devil King Lucifer, also known as Seer's Lucifer, was significantly stronger than Hades, god of the underworld. Right now, that pile of villa ruins was truly a strange place. There were people of all races. Pure-blooded devils, Sona and Rias Grimori. Reincarnated devil, Tsubaki Shinra. Half-devil, Valley. Half-fallen angel, Akino Himahima. Half-angel, Dulio Gesualdo. Descendant of a human hero, Cao Cao. Dragon species, Luo Yu. Red Dragon Emperor, how confident are you? Valley stared at the layer of black dragon slayer curse energy that was almost swallowing Luo Yu, his brows knitted together, and he asked in a low voice. Cao Cao and Dulio Gesualdo also cast their gazes over simultaneously. Before coming here, they had already heard the full story from Albion, who resided in the wings of the White Dragon Emperor. Dragon reincarnation, the third step. In Luo Yu's speculation, the reason why the dragon species would be countered by dragon-slaying weapons and suppressed by that dragon eater named Samael was definitely not just a matter of the curse. He felt that there must be a deeper reason behind this. The dragon species itself must be bound by some invisible chains, or it possessed some inherent flaw, which was why it was suppressed so thoroughly. Otherwise, how could it be explained? Even though the strength of that god himself was weaker than the infinite dragon god Ophis and the great red, Samael, who was born from the gathering of the gods, hatred, anger, and malice, was able to suppress the dragon species firmly. This was illogical. The problem must lie within the dragon species itself. Luo Yu's goal was clear, to sever these shackles and turn himself into a perfect dragon, a dragon species without any flaws. That was why he risked swallowing Samael, hoping to use this opportunity to find those invisible chains or discover where the flaws of the dragon species lay. Even if I said I had 100% confidence, you wouldn't believe me, would you? Luo Yu looked down at the churning black energy on his body and grinned. But the current situation at least proves that the direction is correct. Otherwise, I would have been killed by this dragon slayer curse long ago. How else could I have lasted until now? Cao Cao nodded. That was indeed the case. An ordinary dragon species would be killed almost instantly upon encountering the dragon slayer curse, unlike this guy, the Red Dragon Emperor, who could still stand here talking and laughing. Although only he knew how painful the process was. Cao Cao did not delay any further and spoke directly, "Don't dawdle. There are more and more eyes in the sky. You go into seclusion, and we will protect you." All right. Luo Yu didn't play coy, he gave a reassuring look towards Sona, then sat cross-legged on the ground and began to use the Dragon Slayer curse to find the shackles or flaws he had speculated about. Dimension lost, seal. Cao Cao shouted at Georg, who had just arrived. Georg was a member of the hero faction and also the wielder of the sacred gear, Dimension Lost. Balance breaker, Utopia in the mist. A massive amount of white mist surged out, instantly enveloping Luo Yu. Following that, the mist spread, and the entire villa ruins were swallowed. The ability of Dimension Lost was to send people into an interdimensional space. For outsiders to break it, they would have to defeat Georg first. With Dimension Lost in place, Cao Cao and the others only needed to guard Georg. This matter was not too difficult. The next morning, when the sunlight shone down, Kuo town had already returned to its usual tranquility. Sona and Rias Grimori, along with the maids and butlers from their respective villas, had spent the whole night tossing and turning, finally managing to alter the memories of the residents of Kuo town. Those buildings that had been collapsed by the wind pressure when Luo Yu descended had also been repaired one by one. Looking around, everything was the same as before. Except for that villa that had turned into ruins, and the strange white mist shrouding the ruins. If Sona hadn't set up a barrier in advance to block it, and it had been seen by the town's residents, they would have had to busy themselves for another half a day. A night passed. Anyone with any strength or status in the three realms had their eyes, to some extent, fixed on the white mist created by the sacred gear, Dimension Lost. Everyone was guessing whether the Red Dragon Emperor could succeed. There were far more clever people in the three realms than imagined, and there was no shortage of wise men. Although no one saw through the purpose of the Red Dragon Emperor swallowing the Dragon Eater, Samael at a glance, after a night of repeated pondering, they had almost figured out the trick. He intended to use Samael, the Dragon Eater, to find the ethereal shackles or flaws within the dragon species, then sever them in one stroke so that he would no longer be countered by anything. This conjecture about the shackles or flaws of the dragon species had been mentioned since ancient times. However, it was just a passing thought. No one had ever turned the theory into an actionable plan like the Red Dragon Emperor did. Even the person who proposed this conjecture felt it was too ethereal and idealized, finding no way to actually locate these shackles or flaws, so naturally, no one in the three realms pursued it further. No one expected the Red Dragon Emperor to not only design an actionable plan but also boldly target Samael, the Dragon Eater. He used the Dragon Slayer curse of Samael as a tool to locate those shackles or flaws. This was simply unheard of. He truly had no fear, knowing that the slightest deviation would mean certain death. Although many were curious and wanted to breach the white mist released by Dimension Lost to see how far the Red Dragon Emperor had progressed. But since he had not been killed by the Dragon Slayer curse yet, it meant the Red Dragon Emperor's theory was, to some extent, feasible. This also attracted the eyes of a large number of dragon species. They were dying to tear through that thick mist to see if this kid, who was constantly wreaking havoc on the dragon species, could actually succeed. But upon seeing Sao Sao, Valley, and Dulio Gesualdo guarding the white mist, they could only forcibly suppress their curiosity. There was no need to make enemies of two quasi-super devil class individuals and one limit-breaking super devil class guy just for a bit of curiosity. They could just wait a few more days. For long-lived species like gods and dragons, this amount of time passed in the blink of an eye. As an aside, the underworld was quite lively because the whole affair with Luo Yu being the Red Dragon Emperor had blown up. No one had expected that the legendary son-in-law of the Citri clan, the man who had just taken over the position of head of the family as a fiancé, was actually the Red Dragon Emperor from the Four Great Emperors. Even more exaggeratedly, he had wiped out Hades, god of the underworld, along with the entire underworld. Those pure-blooded devils who had previously gossiped about him being an ordinary person all shut their mouths. Some nasty words had already reached the Red Dragon Emperor's ears. If he got angry and wanted to kill one or a few pure-blooded devils, no one could stop him. Even if Lucifer personally stepped in, he couldn't protect them 24 hours a day from a sneak attack by the Red Dragon Emperor, right? Conversely, the Citri clan was eerily quiet. They probably hadn't reacted to the fact that their son-in-law's status had turned upside down. It was understandable, really. The transformation from an ordinary human son-in-law to the Red Dragon Emperor standing at the pinnacle of the three realms was truly mind-boggling. However, it was rumored that there were many sounds of fighting coming from the New Mao castle, and the guards and maids were on edge, fearing they might accidentally provoke the angry Devil King. A certain young Devil King girl had been forcibly dragged back from the human world to oversee the underworld. When she saw that the man was actually the Red Dragon Emperor, she immediately understood that the contract on her was 100% his doing. She was so angry she wanted to freeze this guy into an ice ball and smash it to pieces bit by bit. Father, I understand. I won't act recklessly. Rias Grimoire helplessly hung up the third magic projection from her father, the current head of the Grimoire clan. He had called so many times just to repeat the same thing. Forget about the matter of the subordinate, Kiba Yuto. A subordinate who was already dead wasn't worth falling out with the Citri clan, let alone making an enemy of the Red Dragon Emperor and the Four Great Emperors. Now, many people understood. The Four Great Emperors were independent on the surface and belonged to different factions. But judging by their attitude this time, the Red Dragon Emperor causing such a huge commotion was definitely not instructed by the forces behind them. It was purely them doing as they pleased. To say the Four Great Emperors were of one mind was a bit of an exaggeration. But in certain situations, offending one of them was highly likely to invite retaliation from the other three, that was absolutely certain. No pure-blooded devil noble in the underworld could withstand a single blow from the Four Great Emperors. The Grimoire clan was the same. The Red Dragon Emperor, with his strength, it really leaves one speechless. Rias Grimoire looked at the thick white mist outside the barrier not far away and whispered. Kaniko's state was clearly not right. She stared fixedly at the direction inside the white mist, her little face tense, as if she was desperately suppressing something. Rias Grimoire frowned as she watched her. The flush from exercise hadn't faded yet, but the look in this girl's eyes didn't look like she was tired at all. Kaniko, what's wrong? In the villa, besides the butler and maids, everyone else was guarding outside the white mist. Akino Himahima and Sona were watching from the perimeter. Rias Grimoire felt that Kaniko was enduring something. Could it be that something was wrong with her body? Bushu, I'm fine. Just a little tired. After Kaniko said this, she glanced at the white mist again with a complex look in her eyes. Her lips were pressed tightly together, she was clearly forcing herself. Rias Grimoire was not blind. She could see that there was definitely something wrong with Kaniko. Yuto was already gone. Kaneko couldn't have anything happen to her too. She was about to put on a stern face and ask what was going on. Crack. A crisp sound. Like the sound of iron chains breaking. Not only did Rias Grimori hear it, but Sona and the others heard it too. Even the gods who had been watching from the shadows all suddenly woke up. The sound came from within the white mist. There shouldn't have been any movement there. But that sound of chains breaking definitely came from inside. The dragon species hiding in the shadows felt a strange lightness in their bodies upon hearing this sound. It was as if something had been released. This was the Red Dragon Emperor about to succeed? Had he really found that invisible shackle that bound all dragons? Was he breaking it with his own hands? Crack. A second cracking sound rang out. It was even crisper than the previous one. Now, the expressions of the gods all changed. Shiva, Indra, Odin, the eyes of each one changed. If they hadn't dared to be sure the first time, this time they were absolutely certain. The Red Dragon Emperor had really found that chain. That shackle that had been bound to all dragons since birth. Georg. Cao Cao shouted immediately. Only this guy, who possessed Dimension Lost, could see clearly what was happening in the white mist. Georg nodded and immediately activated the properties of Dimension Lost to investigate the situation in the different dimension. Or rather, to investigate Luo Yu's current state. A few seconds later, Georg stared at the churning white mist, a flash of surprise in his eyes. The Dragon Slayer curse on the Red Dragon Emperor is dissipating. Just this one sentence allowed the hearts of Sona, Tsubaki Shinra, and Akano Himehime to finally settle down. The oppression and anxiety of the past few days finally had room to breathe. This guy, sometimes he really is admirable. Giulio Gesualdo, who was usually laid back, said something serious for once. Cao Cao also nodded, agreeing. Valley, however, poured cold water on them. Don't be happy too soon. The curse has only faded, it's not gone completely. The chains on him haven't all been severed yet. Cao Cao and Giulio Gesualdo looked at each other, their expressions becoming serious again. Indeed, it was not yet time to relax. Those sounds of chains breaking must have already attracted the attention of many forces in the shadows. Now was the moment they needed to be most vigilant. Their conversation was not intentionally lowered, and the gods present heard it clearly. The faces of these gods were full of shock. A kid under 20 years old could actually achieve this. Even though he hadn't completely succeeded, just reaching this step was enough to be recorded in the history of the three realms. No matter if the Red Dragon Emperor succeeded today or not, this generation's Red Dragon Emperor was destined to be remembered by all gods. Underworld. Tannen looked toward the direction of the human world and shook his head. He has taken the first step. But, that's enough. After a moment of contemplation, he tore open space and headed directly to the human world. East. Jade Dragon found Indra. I'm going out for a while. Indra didn't stop him. He knew where the other party was going. Heaven. On the mirror lake of light, several holy light dragons, 40 or 50 Zhonglong, were passing through a space passage, flying toward the human world. Familiar forest. The giant dragons in the depths took flight, scaring many familiars into trembling. The Hindu pantheon, other pantheons. All forces were moving. On Luo Yu's side. After the second sound of chains breaking, it was like a floodgate had been opened. Crack, crack, crack. The sounds came one after another, from the depths of the white mist where Dimension Lost was churning. Georg said the Dragon Slayer curse on the Red Dragon Emperor was getting lighter and lighter. Compared to the way it was covered in black energy before, it was like a different person. The sound of chains breaking became more and more frequent. The gods' expressions changed one after another. They were all calculating in their hearts how many such binding chains were wrapped around this dragon. At least 20 or 30, right? Cao Cao, Valley, and Giulio Gesualdo became more and more tense following the sound, their perception ranges fully open, their respective sacred gears ready to activate Balance Breaker at any time. If this continued, someone would definitely be unable to hold back and enter the fray personally. Whether it was to prevent the Red Dragon Emperor from coming out alive to take revenge, or to prevent the dragon species from completely shaking off their shackles and losing the nemesis that suppressed them. Someone would always lose their patience and act first. Suddenly, dense arcane magic circles surged in midair. Looking at it, it wasn't a temporary casting at all, but something that had been ambushed long ago. The Norse pantheon. They were the first to make a move. Although the gods had expected someone to act, they didn't expect the first to jump out to be the Norse side. The Red Dragon Emperor didn't have any deep-seated hatred with the Norse pantheon, at most just some minor grievances. This battle formation was so large, it didn't look like the style of that old man, Odin. But these thoughts had nothing to do with Cao Cao and the others. Dulio Gesualdo and Cao Cao instantly activated the balance breaker of their respective sacred gears. Zenith Tempest. True Longinus. Valley also directly activated the White Dragon Emperor's light wings, Juggernaut drive form. A limit-breaking Super Devil class and two quasi-Super Devil class terrifying auras exploded simultaneously, sweeping through the entire Kuo town. The residents of the town didn't even know what happened. They were directly knocked unconscious by these three successively exploding pressures. However, that was just as well, lest they be scared to death after seeing this world-ending level battle later. Sona and the others also hurriedly retreated. In a battle of this level, they couldn't even withstand the aftermath. Although they were worried about Luo Yu, the best choice was not to get involved. The sky full of arcane magic circles erupted simultaneously, and countless beams of light smashed toward Cao Cao and the others. Because they had to protect Georg, and protecting Georg was the only way to protect Luo Yu, they could only take it head-on. White Dragon Emperor's light wings. Valley immediately activated the ability of the White Dragon Emperor's light wings, instantly reducing the attacking light beams aimed at them by half. Immediately after, Dulio Gesualdo made his move. Countless thunderclaps exploded in the air. Bolts of lightning intertwined into over 100 thick, whip-like lightning strands, dancing wildly in midair. Within seconds, all the pillars of light were scattered. Cao Cao flicked his wrist, his spear carving a cold arc through the air, the tip pointing directly at a spot in the firmament. Loki, stop hiding. Come out. Space shattered like glass, and the figure of the Norse evil god Loki stepped out from the fissure. Behind him followed a gray-white giant wolf over a dozen meters long, its mouth bearing two terrifyingly thick fangs that made one's scalp tingle just by looking at them. That was the ferocious beast that even the gods feared, Fenrir, the wolf that devours gods. A monster created by Loki's own hands. A combat strength at the Super Devil level, ranking in the top 10 worldwide. If this wolf were to go mad, he could go toe-to-toe with the two heavenly dragons in their prime. In terms of being troublesome, he was even more thorny than Hades of the underworld. With Loki's appearance, the entire divine realm was in an uproar. All the gods, gazes instantly converged on the Norse pantheon, not to mention that Loki had also brought Fenrir along. Everyone knew that the Norse pantheon had only two super devils in total. One was this Fenrir, the wolf that devours gods, and the other was Thor, the god of thunder. Now, it was great, Loki had brought Fenrir to cause trouble for the Red Dragon Emperor. Wasn't this clearly setting the stage for a fight to the death with the four great emperors? Just how much hatred existed between these two sides. Just then, a furious voice suddenly exploded, shaking the entire sky. Loki, in the name of the chief god of the Norse pantheon, I order you to take Fenrir and get back to the Norse pantheon immediately. It was Odin. Loki curled his lip, his tone full of mockery. You, Odin, watch as the Red Dragon Emperor and the White Dragon Emperor run rampant in the divine realm without saying a word, yet now you have the nerve to order me around. You fool. You will bring catastrophe upon the Norse pantheon. Catastrophe. Loki suddenly threw his head back and laughed. Isn't that exactly what I want? Anyway, it's only a step away from Ragnarok. You. Far away in the Norse pantheon, Odin was so angry that his beard stood on end, and his entire body trembled. But he couldn't get there in time, and even if he did, he was no match for Fenrir. Thor, the god of thunder, the only one who could suppress this demonic wolf, was currently in seclusion. This guy Loki, he really couldn't do anything about him. Regarding Loki challenging Odin in front of everyone, the other gods were not surprised at all. Loki was a staunch supporter of Ragnarok to begin with, and Fenrir, whom he had created, was the monster in Norse mythology destined to swallow Odin alive. If these two suddenly became brotherly and respectful, that would be truly terrifying. Who knows what greater conspiracy these two might be plotting behind everyone's backs. After all, Loki's nickname was the god of deceit. The Red Dragon Emperor is too strong, whether for me or for the entire three realms, he is an eyesore. Loki stared at that ball of white mist, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. He raised a hand and pointed, and Fenrir charged up. Awoo! The giant wolf's roar shook the ground, his beastly eyes filled with mad, blood-red color, as he lunged straight at Cao Cao and his group. Loki wasn't idle either. His hands moved incessantly, condensing strands of arcane magic at his fingertips, pressing forward in coordination with Fenrir. Attack! Cao Cao and Dulio Gesualdo exchanged a glance and attacked simultaneously. The sky exploded instantly, thunder rolling in the clouds like a madman, thick bolts of lightning striking down, blindingly bright. Dulio Gesualdo grasped the zenith tempest. He looked as if he were possessed by the god of thunder, with the lightning in his hands appearing alive. With a casual point, the lightning light surged out, shattering all the arcane magic that Loki had thrown over. Immediately after, over 100 lightning spears formed in the air, shooting toward Loki like lightning. On the other side, Cao Cao had already engaged with the wolf that devours gods. His side was not as relaxed as Dulio Gesualdo's. No matter how strong Loki was, he was only at the peak of Super Devil. Dulio Gesualdo, on the other hand, was a limit Super Devil at full power, a grade higher. Cao Cao himself was also a level behind Fenrir. Fortunately, he didn't need to defeat this beast, he just needed to stall him. His spear technique was indeed fast enough. While dodging those fangs that could crush everything, he sought openings to counterattack. Swish, 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 dozens of spear shadows tore through space, slamming into Fenrir wrapped in holy light, knocking the giant wolf back hundreds of meters. The intense pain from his body made Fenrir go completely mad. He opened his huge mouth and lunged back. The wolf's howls and the sound of the spear piercing the air intertwined, the battle causing space itself to start shattering. Valley did not move. He kept guarding his spot, watching his surroundings, protecting that guy who held Dimension Lost, Georg. But just then, the white mist released by Georg began to fade bit by bit. How is this possible? Has Dimension Lost failed? Georg's expression changed drastically. The sacred gear inside his body seemed to have fallen completely asleep, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't activate it again. This was the first time he had encountered such a thing. Not to mention him, Cao Cao and Dulio Gesualdo, who were fighting in the sky, were also affected. Their sacred gears didn't go completely dead like Georg's, but their power had also been severely slashed. Cao Cao's strength dropped directly from quasi-super devil to limit super devil, and the pressure from facing Fenrir instantly multiplied several times over. He rolled to the side in a sorry state, nearly being pierced through by the beast's fangs, his right side narrowly grazing past them. And Dulio Gesualdo was even more miserable, directly suppressed from limit super devil back to the same level as Loki, the peak of super devil. No wonder. Loki dared to jump out. That guy has come too. The moment the white mist dissipated, all the gods saw that figure clearly. Luo Yu sat cross-legged on the ground, eyes closed tightly, head lowered. His originally pitch-black short hair had now turned pure white, reaching his waist. Even his face had become much softer. It was as if he had shed some heavy burden, becoming clean and pure, exuding an indescribable holiness. The Dragon Slayer curse has disappeared. Sona blurted out, her voice filled with irrepressible excitement. Those few underworld devils also breathed a sigh of relief. The gods looked at each other, their eyes filled with the same question, did it succeed? Loki's face was so dark it could drip water. If the Red Dragon Emperor really got rid of the curse, then things would be completely out of control. The Red Dragon Emperor in his prime was a combat force at the Super Devil level himself, and he also held the Eternal Kingdom that could erase Super Devils. Relying only on him and Fenrir, plus Rizvam Levon Lucifer, it probably wouldn't be enough. Not to mention that group of people with the White Dragon Emperor getting in the way. In this silence, a frivolous laugh rang out. Yo, My cute grandson, you and these little friends are causing quite a ruckus, having even taken out that old bag of bones, Hades. A middle-aged man appeared out of thin air, a malicious smile hanging on his face. Valley's gaze instantly turned icy, staring at him intently. The gods were not surprised at all by this person's appearance. But on the underworld side, Sona and the others were all stunned. Rizvam Levon Lucifer. She cried out involuntarily. This person was the underworld's #1 wanted criminal, the super devil born from the first devil king Lucifer and the mother of devils, Lilith, the monster recorded in the list of names. Rizvam Levon Lucifer. His ability was sacred gear nullification. But at this moment, Luo Yu and the other four had already developed their sacred gears to a sufficiently deep level, so the suppression effect of this ability was greatly reduced. The Red Dragon Emperor of this generation is truly interesting. Rizvam Levon Lucifer looked at Luo Yu, the smile on his face slowly receding, his tone becoming icy. You killed Hades and also snatched away Dragon Eater Samael, messing up your uncle's plans. He paused for a moment. Your uncle, I really want to kill someone right now. With the effect of dimension lost completely lifted, the surrounding white mist began to dissipate. Luo Yu's figure gradually became clear. He was still sitting on the ground, eyes closed tightly, white hair hanging down, his entire being quiet and peaceful. But everyone knew, from this moment on, things were completely different. Before making his move, Rizvam Levon Lucifer had promised him that he had a way to suppress the power of the sacred gears held by Cao Cao, Dulio Gesualdo, and Valley. But the Red Dragon Emperor was not necessarily the case. The Red Dragon Emperor in this form was a brand new Juggernaut drive state, called the Sacred Juggernaut Drive. In front of this guy, his sacred gear nullification ability might very well be useless. After all, any ability had an upper limit. Everyone understood this principle, there was nothing strange about it. It looks like it hasn't been completely finished yet. Rizvam Levon Lucifer said in a frivolous tone. Although the Red Dragon Emperor's appearance had changed drastically at this moment, and he looked as if his very essence of life had evolved, as if he had broken all the shackles binding the dragon race, just like in the legends. But this guy's aura was still unstable, clearly still gathering power. The chains were still there, not completely broken. This situation was not only noticed by Rizvam Levon Lucifer, but the gods nearby also noticed it. However, they felt that as long as the Red Dragon Emperor was given enough time, these last few shackles would be nothing. Unfortunately, Rizvam Levon Lucifer and Loki would not be generous enough to give him that time. Sure enough, after confirming that the Red Dragon Emperor had not yet broken all the shackles and currently seemed to be in a state where he could neither fight nor defend, Loki directly ordered Fenrir to attack with full force, without any regard for anything. For a moment, the pressure on Cao Cao's side soared, and he had already been wounded, with quite visible injuries. Dulio Gesualdo wanted to help Cao Cao, but Loki kept him tightly entangled, and he couldn't find any opening at all. Moreover, the arcane magic the opponent cast was both nimble and versatile. In the past, Dulio Gesualdo felt that he could break this kind of arcane magic from Loki with a wave of his hand. It was very fragile. But when he actually stood at the same level as Loki to fight, he realized that this thing was unimaginably difficult to deal with. Although it couldn't directly crush an opponent of the same level, it was perfectly capable of gaining the upper hand and keeping him suppressed. At this moment, Dulio Gesualdo suddenly remembered that the Red Dragon Emperor also had quite good attainments in arcane magic. No wonder that kid had secretly run to the Norse pantheon to learn from them back then. Valley, Grandpa doesn't have time to play with you anymore, go down. A violent wind from the abyss of the underworld lashed fiercely against Valley. Even though he had used the White Dragon Emperor's light wings to have the impact in advance, the power was still too fierce, directly shattering his armor and forcibly deactivating his Juggernaut drive state. Valley spat out a mouthful of blood, his entire body falling to the ground. Cough, cough. Valley glared at Rizvam Levon Lucifer in the sky, gritting his teeth, the hatred in his eyes seemingly capable of burning the entire sky. Juggernaut drive. Valley completely ignored the pile of injuries on his body, forcibly activating his juggernaut drive state again and again, the frequency almost pushing his body to its limit. Albion, who resided within the White Dragon Emperor's light wings, could only sigh in his heart. Valley, blinded by hatred, wouldn't listen to anyone now. As I thought, I should have killed that brat myself back then. That useless piece of trash who can't do anything right. Rizvam Levon Lucifer furrowed his brows, clearly annoyed by Valley's pestering. It wasn't that he couldn't kill this guy, it just took too much time. By the time that Red Dragon really broke the final seal, who knew if Dragon Eater Samael would still be there? His goal for coming here wasn't just to take the Red Dragon Emperor's life. More importantly, it was to capture Dragon Eater Samael. That was the true top priority. Bang! Another muffled sound echoed. Rizvam Levon Lucifer kicked out, and Valley's juggernaut drive form was instantly forcibly dispersed. But before he could even catch his breath, Valley re-entered juggernaut drive mode, blocking his path. Gathering all his strength, he smashed fiercely towards Rizvam Levon Lucifer. You really are like a fly. Rizvam Levon Lucifer shattered the attack with a single punch, flashed in front of Valley, and struck with his palm, aiming straight for his heart. Valley had already sustained serious injuries by this time, but his reaction was not slow at all. He concentrated all his power into his hands and met Rizvam Levon Lucifer's palm head-on. He couldn't dodge, so he would fight. Even if he died, he had to tear a piece of flesh off this old thing. TCH. Rizvam Levon Lucifer spat. He had no interest in playing a game of trading lives with this unfilial grandson. Although Valley's attack might not necessarily kill him, it could very well severely injure him. In the current situation, if he were truly severely injured, his sacred gear canceller might just collapse. If that happened, and Valley was lucky enough not to die, it would be a huge problem. Rizvam Levon Lucifer immediately changed his technique, blasting Valley over a dozen jong away with one palm. Zeus, how long are you going to keep watching? He suddenly roared in all directions. Will you only be happy when the Red Dragon Emperor wakes up and leads the 4 great emperors to slaughter your entire Greek pantheon? Cao Cao and the others' expressions changed instantly. They had almost forgotten that a super devil like Zeus was still nearby. If he really attacked at this moment, it would be a huge problem. 3 super devils attacking together was not something they could withstand. But sometimes, fate is just that shitty. The more you fear something, the more it happens. Just like now. The sky suddenly rumbled, and thunderous light fell from the sky. The void shattered, and an ocean condensed from thunder surged out from the horizon. The gods shook their heads, watching this scene unfold for the 3rd time in a single day. 3 super devils, joining forces to siege and kill the Red Dragon Emperor. This kind of treatment had only appeared during the ancient The Great War. At that time, the first generation 4 great demon kings of the underworld ganged up on were that very god. Master. When Tsubaki Shinra saw Zeus descend again, the shadow in her heart became impossibly thick. Red Dragon Emperor. Zeus gripped his spear tightly, the killing intent in his eyes as cold as ice. Luo Yu kept his eyes closed, standing there motionless. The first 2 times, because of the rules of the Greek pantheon, he couldn't use lethal force. But this time was different. All 3 super devils were present. Even if the Red Dragon Emperor woke up, they could still join forces to kill him. The spear drew upon the thunder filling the sky, infinite electric light surged madly into the spear shaft, and an aura of destruction exploded in the air. Cao Cao and the others wanted to rush over to stop him. But their opponents didn't give them the chance at all. Before, they were desperately dragging the enemies down, but now it was the opposite, the enemies were holding them back tightly. Go to hell, Red Dragon Emperor! Zeus roared, and the spear was swung down violently. The world instantly lost its voice. Everything seemed to have its color drained away. Only an incomparably huge bolt of thunder remained, engulfing the entire villa ruins along with Luo Yu, everything crushed and vanished in the light. The surroundings slowly regained their color. Sona stared blankly at what was in front of her, feeling as if she had been emptied out. There was nothing left. The villa ruins were gone, that space was gone, and even Luo Yu had disappeared. All that remained was a pitch-black void, where nothing could be seen clearly. Luo Yu. Sona's legs went weak, and she collapsed to the ground, her eyes fixed on that void, muttering to herself. It can't be. It can't be. Tsubaki Shinra and Akino Himehime stood nearby, their eyes terrifyingly red, their gazes hollow, their lips trembling, just repeating the same words over and over. Rizvam Levon Lucifer gritted his teeth, his face full of unwillingness. He searched that void over and over again. He couldn't even find a trace of the Dragon Slayer curse. This meant that Dragon Eater Samael had also disappeared along with the Red Dragon Emperor. Completely wiped from this world. Rizvam Levon Lucifer simply couldn't swallow this. In contrast, Loki and Zeus breathed a sigh of relief. They had no interest in Samael. Their target from the beginning had only been the Red Dragon Emperor. Especially Zeus. The Red Dragon Emperor was dead, and the thorn in his heart had finally been removed. The gods nearby had various reactions. Some sighed and shook their heads. No matter how stunning the Red Dragon Emperor was, hadn't he still fallen? In the end, for the three realms, it could be considered one less piece of trouble. But more people were secretly rejoicing. With the Red Dragon Emperor dead, no one could unlock the shackles on the dragon species. The dragon species were already enough to make the major pantheons wary. Fortunately, there were a bunch of dragon-slaying weapons suppressing them. If the shackles were gone, even if the dragon species wouldn't become much stronger, just thinking about it made one's scalp tingle. The expressions on Cao Cao and the others' faces didn't change much. They simply didn't believe that the Red Dragon Emperor would die so easily. There was no basis for it, they just didn't want to believe it from the bottom of their hearts. Ouch! That hurts like hell. Zeus, you really are ruthless. A mere Red Dragon Emperor, was it worth all three of you super devils attacking together? Loki, Rizvam Levon Lucifer, Zeus, and the various gods present all thought that the matter was settled. As a result, a voice of pain suddenly sounded, and everyone was stunned. In the darkness, a pitch-black giant dragon slowly revealed its form. Nearly 50 zhong long, about the same size as the holy light dragon when Luo Yu used his balance breaker. The dragon scales on its body were rotten in many places, flesh and blood were blurred, and small electric arcs were darting about on the wounds. Although this black dragon looked wretched, that pressure belonging to a super devil instantly enveloped the entire scene. The expressions of Rizvam Levon Lucifer, Loki, and Zeus turned extremely ugly instantly. Because they saw it. The person protected behind the black dragon was none other than Luo Yu, who had just had no aura at all. Luo Yu was still keeping his eyes closed. Zeus's terrifying attack had been borne completely by this black dragon. Moreover, the Red Dragon Emperor didn't have a single injury on him. When Sona and the others saw that Luo Yu was still alive, they were so excited they could barely control themselves. Sona had lost control of her emotions several times today, which was unprecedented. The dark dragon of the new moon, Krom Kruok. You escaped the siege of the gods back then, and now you dare to openly harbor the Red Dragon Emperor. You are setting yourself against the entire Greek pantheon. Zeus was furious, his rage impossible to suppress. Thunder surged wildly behind him, and 10,000 bolts of lightning exploded simultaneously. The blow that should have taken the Red Dragon Emperor's life had been ruined by this evil dragon, the dark dragon of the new moon. Krom Kruok transformed into the appearance of a young man. He shook his finger, then stared fixedly at Zeus, his tone very heavy. It is not that I want to set myself against your Greek pantheon. It is your Greek pantheon that insists on being enemies with our dragon race. As soon as he finished speaking, from all directions, long and deep dragon roars resounded. It wasn't one dragon, but a large group of dragons had arrived. The demon saint dragon Tannen, the chaos karma dragon Tiamat, and the West Sea dragon child Jade Dragon. These three dragon kings who possessed super devil king class strength arrived first, directly surrounding Loki and Fenrir. Loki's expression suddenly turned extremely ugly. Immediately after, the holy light dragon of the heavenly realm, the ice dragon of the northern European ice kingdom, the demon dragon of the underworld. More and more dragon species arrived, and not a single one was below devil king class strength. The number was terrifying, almost 100. Among them, there were over a dozen at the Super Devil King class level. With so many terrifyingly powerful dragons gathered together, even if some gods knew something in advance, their expressions changed now. This power, even if the mainstream pantheons were to come out in full force, probably couldn't compare. If the major factions were tied together before the Great War, perhaps they could clash with this formation. Loki, Rizvam Levon Lucifer, Zeus, if you three still want to fight, we old things will accompany you to the end. The demon Saint Dragon Tannen stared fixedly at the three, his eyes full of fighting spirit. This time, even Rizvam Levon Lucifer couldn't keep a straight face. With over a dozen Super Devil King class dragons standing here, even if he had the strength of a super devil, he wouldn't dare act recklessly. Zeus didn't say a word, his body shook, and he turned into lightning and ran away. Loki and Fenrir swept a look at Luo Yu unwillingly, and could only retreat. The dragon species were all here, the Red Dragon Emperor definitely wouldn't die today. Unless 2 or 3 more super devils popped up. But looking at the whole world, whether they were on the surface or hidden, there were less than 20 in total. Who would offend so many dragons just to kill a Red Dragon Emperor? Just because the Red Dragon Emperor can break free from the shackles doesn't mean you can too. Don't even count on him teaching you this skill. Rizvam Levon Lucifer scanned the surrounding dragons, his tone full of mockery. Rizvam Levon Lucifer, when did you become so talkative? Crom Cruach's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He was an evil dragon. Although he hadn't caused trouble in the 3 realms for a long time, he still had a bloodthirsty nature in his bones. If you don't want to die here, get lost. HMPH. Rizvam Levon Lucifer stared at Luo Yu behind Crom Cruach. He would settle this account sooner or later. With a wave of his hand, he tore open space directly and disappeared into the void. The group of dragons saw him leave, but they didn't relax at all. Instead, they surrounded Luo Yu in the middle. This was the hope that could unlock the shackles on the dragon species, there could be absolutely no mistakes. Time passed bit by bit, and it got dark. The residents of Kuo town were all knocked unconscious. If they were to see dragons flying all over the sky, they would probably be scared to death. Luo Yu was surrounded by the group of dragons, as if he was desperately trying to break through something. Beads of sweat seeped from his forehead. After a while, a cracking sound. It was the sound of chains breaking again. But this time the sound was much more violent than before, as if the last stubborn base had finally shattered. The dragon species aura on Luo Yu's body slowly became elusive. The group of dragons could feel it. It was a fundamental metamorphosis, as if layers of restraints were being stripped away, approaching the most primitive origin. The group of dragons all understood in their hearts. The Red Dragon Emperor had succeeded. He had severed the shackles on his body. When Luo Yu opened his eyes, his pupils had changed color. They were no longer his previous black eyes, but a pair of pupils glowing with a pale golden light, like the eyes of a saint, carrying a dignity that made people afraid to look directly at them. He stood up and bowed to the surrounding dragons. That golden hue slowly faded, leaving only the color of his pupils, which were completely different from before. Everyone, thank you. Crom Cruach spoke directly. Red Dragon Emperor, you don't need to do this. We came here with a purpose, not to help out of kindness. He was not afraid to speak plainly. Dragons had always spoken like this, straightforward and direct, unlike humans who like to beat around the bush and play with formalities. This group of dragons came running over, willing to block the 3 super devils for the Red Dragon Emperor, all for that one thing, how to sever the innate shackles on the dragon reincarnation. They wanted to completely pull out the thorn stuck in the hearts of the dragon race. Even if the Red Dragon Emperor's method couldn't necessarily be used by everyone, just as Rizvam Levon Lucifer said before leaving, the Red Dragon Emperor might succeed, but they might not. But as long as there was even a shred of hope, they didn't want to let it go. I understand. Luo Yu nodded. In this world, there are no free benefits, nor is there malice without cause. Whoever helps whom, there is always a reason. With Crom Cruach saying it so directly, it was actually more comfortable to hear, devoid of much hypocrisy. Jade Dragon was the youngest among the 5 great dragon kings, and also the most impatient. It was about to speak, but before it could finish, Luo Yu had already made a move. Luo Yu directly utilized arcane magic to transmit information regarding how to sever the dragon race's shackles to every dragon present, one by one. The information poured in like a stream, silently spreading. The dragons hurriedly checked the information in their minds. No one expected the Red Dragon Emperor to be so straightforward, directly tossing the method over. They scanned it a few times. Hiss. Even an evil dragon of the heavenly dragon level like Krom Kruok had an expression of surprise on his face. It wasn't for any other reason. In the data the Red Dragon Emperor gave them, the specific location of the dragon race's shackles and how to accumulate power to sever them were all clearly marked. Although every dragon's situation was slightly different. According to the Red Dragon Emperor's method, at least half of the common shackles could be severed. It wasn't all of them, but for dragons like them, it was already more than enough. Now that Dragon Eater Samael was gone, severing half the shackles was enough to let them weaken or even ignore the restrictive effects of most dragon-slaying weapons. To them, dragon-slaying weapons were no longer deadly weapons that killed upon touch. At most, they were just slightly sharper blades. If the person holding the weapon wasn't strong enough, they couldn't even break their dragon scales. There was no need to worry anymore about some random small fry carrying a dragon-slaying blade and hacking them into serious injury. Catch. Krom Kruok tossed a drop of dragon blood toward Luo Yu. It wasn't ordinary stuff, it was essence blood, the essence blood of the dragon race. Previously, in order to carry out the first step of dragon reincarnation, Luo Yu had caused quite a bit of trouble for various dragon clans, extracting their essence blood. Many of the dragons present had been forcibly bled by him. He was, of course, very familiar with this stuff. Red Dragon Emperor, absorb this drop of essence blood. I promise you, unconditionally, without any reason, I will help you with all my might once. Even if it's to hunt down Zeus or destroy an entire pantheon, I'll do it. After saying this, Krom Kruok transformed into a pitch-black giant dragon, tore through space, and vanished into the void. It seemed that his action had started a trend, acting as a catalyst. Immediately after, the dragons one after another handed their essence blood to Luo Yu. Even the three dragon kings, the demonic holy dragon Tannen, the chaos karma dragon Tiamat, and the West Sea dragon child Jade Dragon, were no exception. They also gave the same promise as Krom Kruok. The method for severing the shackles given by the Red Dragon Emperor was even more precious than they had imagined. The dragon race is arrogant and does not like to owe favors, even to their own kind. After giving the items, they left one after another. Once the dragons left, the night sky suddenly appeared empty. However, not all dragons had left. There was still one super devil class holy light dragon remaining, as if it had something it wanted to say to Luo Yu. Red Dragon Emperor, I am the patriarch of the Holy Light Dragon clan, and Qi. Today, our entire clan owes you a favor. Even if other dragon kinds removed their bloodline differences, they could at most only sever half of the shackles. But as they were of the same kind as the Red Dragon Emperor, they didn't need to worry about this at all, they could sever all the shackles. Even if the gods later imitated the Dragon Eater Samael and created something specifically to restrain the dragon race, they wouldn't be suppressed. Therefore, no matter how you put it, the Holy Light Dragon clan truly owed the Red Dragon Emperor a big favor. Patriarch and Qi, you are too polite. My dragon reincarnation was able to succeed entirely thanks to your help. In this regard, I also owe you quite a few favors. Luo Yu didn't say the words, essence blood, feeling it wasn't quite appropriate. No. Red Dragon Emperor, you were able to complete the dragon reincarnation and become a holy light dragon. That was your own ability, it has nothing to do with us. And Qi shook his massive dragon head. Red Dragon Emperor, if you have time, come to the center of the mirror lake of light in the heaven. There might be something there that is useful to you. After speaking, he looked at Dulio Gesualdo, who had been avoiding his gaze, and shouted, You brat, come back with me. Your master ordered it. Lord and Qi, wait a moment. And Qi ignored his struggle, grabbed Dulio Gesualdo, and flew toward the spatial passage to the heaven. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared on the horizon. Red Dragon Emperor, don't forget the favor you owe me. Cao Cao left with the people from the hero faction. Valley was heavily injured, he glanced at Luo Yu, didn't say a word, and turned to leave. Partner, you just gave everything you worked so hard to achieve to them like that. Drake spoke up at this moment, he also felt that Luo Yu was too generous this time. This was something he had risked his life to exchange for. What does it matter? Compared to what I truly gained, those methods for severing the shackles are not worth mentioning at all. It's better to give them away generously and leave a good impression on the dragon race, who knows, it might come in handy in the future. The nearly 100 drops of essence blood in his hand were the real unexpected surprise. If he wanted to, he could completely make all the dragon races go and destroy the Greek pantheon. But doing that would be overkill. It wasn't worth it. Fair enough. Drake didn't argue, only he knew what Luo Yu had truly obtained. Subsequently, Luo Yu descended toward Sona and the others. Looking at the slightly haggard faces of Sona and the others, Luo Yu sighed, his tone sounding like he was comforting them, and also like he was pouring out his heart. I am completely back. You. 5 days passed in a flash. During this time, many dragons followed the Red Dragon Emperor's method and successively severed the chains on their bodies. This matter was seen by those gods, and all their mouths were filled with a bitter taste. That fool, the Red Dragon Emperor, was truly generous, he even threw out the method to break the dragon race's shackles. He was simply wishing for chaos in the world. Those second-rate pantheons that didn't have a good relationship with the dragon race were incredibly frustrated. One by one, they hated the Red Dragon Emperor so much their teeth itched. With the dragon race unable to be suppressed, those dragon-slaying tools in their hands all became scrap metal. If they really wanted to go head-to-head with the dragon race, even if they could win, they would suffer grievous injuries themselves. The only thing that could make the gods breathe a sigh of relief was that even if most dragons severed their chains, they weren't completely immune to the restrictions, just weakened by more than half. This result wasn't the best, nor was it the worst. They could only comfort themselves that at least the dragon race still had weaknesses, it was just that they weren't as easy to use. Except for the two exceptions, the Holy Light Dragon and the Red Dragon Emperor. The Holy Light Dragon in the heaven had a docile personality and basically didn't cause trouble. But as for the Red Dragon Emperor, just thinking about the messes he had stirred up in the three realms, one knew this guy was not someone to be trifled with. While the gods were having a headache, Luo Yu was currently in his villa room, taking stock of his gains this time. Only he and Drake knew about this. That villa, which had turned into ruins, had been restored to its original state within a day under the influence of extraordinary power. The entire Kuo town had also returned to peace. The boosted gear, after fusing with Dragon Eater Samael, has already risen from elite class to a high-level sacred gear on par with the true Longinus and Zenith Tempest. In addition to the original 4 abilities, Boost, Transfer, Penetrate, and Crimson Emperor Flame, it has gained a Decay Curse. The boosted gear on Luo Yu's left hand had changed its appearance again, just like last time when it fused with the hilt of the first holy sword. The color became a deeper crimson, faintly showing a trend of turning black. Most importantly, the emerald green gem on the gauntlet had been soaked through with black, and its original color could no longer be seen. Just by taking one look, one could feel an ominous aura emanating from it. This was the result of Luo Yu forcibly shattering the origin of Dragon Eater Samael over and over again while severing the chains, slowly fusing it into the boosted gear. It not only raised the boosted gear in one breath to a high-level sacred gear on par with the true Longinus and Zenith Tempest, but also brought about a terrifying overall boost of 20%. In his hands, the power of the boosted gear directly skyrocketed by 20%. Whether it was Balance Breaker, Juggernaut Drive, or the Sacred Juggernaut Drive, all could have their combat power raised by another notch. This level of increase was simply ridiculously exaggerated. If he were to really go all out, crushing those monsters of Super Devil level was not impossible. The newly awakened ability, Decay Curse, was even more insidious. Once this move was released, all enemies within range, from body to soul, from power to existence, would slowly rot away. The speed and effect of the decay depended entirely on whether the enemy themselves could withstand it. What was even more disgusting was that Luo Yu could also weave this curse into every attack. The enemy simply couldn't defend against it. Once hit by the curse and it entered the body, they were completely done for. The decay curse was an insidious trick, but also a killer move. Unless necessary, it was best not to use it casually. He put away the boosted gear, a trace of gravity flashing in his golden pupils. This time, having broken the shackles of the dragon reincarnation, he would never be restrained by any miscellaneous things in the future. His body and origin dragon soul had both undergone a baptism, and his potential had skyrocketed by a large margin. Even those minor ailments brought about by the dragon reincarnation were all swept away cleanly. The only regret was that his strength itself hadn't increased by too much. However, he did have an unexpected gain. What followed was the true main event, and his greatest achievement this time. It wasn't just as simple as breaking the shackles of the dragon reincarnation. For the sake of insurance, and to prevent anyone from spying in secret, Luo Yu raised his hand and cast one after another arcane magic arrays, all of which fused into the walls of the room. The arrays flashed and then vanished. He had cast a full 100 of them, and only after confirming that even a powerhouse of Super Devil level wouldn't be able to easily peek in, did he stop his actions. Being so cautious and careful, it was evident how important what he was about to do next, or rather, the result he was about to examine, was to him. He remained silent and took out a crystal. The energy stored inside that thing was frighteningly large. It was an energy crystal native to the Norse pantheon. In the Norse region, even major arrays at the main god level had to use this thing as a core. Even within the Norse pantheon, such crystals were extremely rare. The next second, Luo Yu swallowed the crystal in one gulp. A massive amount of energy instantly exploded within his body, causing his skin and muscles to rupture and seep blood. Even a powerhouse at the Super Devil King class level could not withstand this kind of power, let alone someone like him who was currently only at the Mao class level. Luo Yu took a deep breath, forcefully enduring the pain of his body being on the verge of exploding, and slowly sank his mind, letting his consciousness enter an ethereal state. Immediately after, he felt his whole person plummet downward, and the sensation of being bloated and on the verge of bursting vanished. When he opened his eyes, the scene before him had undergone a world-shaking transformation. All around him was an endless, deep darkness. This was the deepest part of his own being. The interstitial space where the soul and physical body converge. In the darkness, countless golden patterns lit up. They were dense and numerous, impossible to count. Millions, or perhaps tens of millions. It seemed endless. Luo Yu's state at this moment was very special. It was not his physical body, nor was it the origin dragon soul from before, but a pure condensation of consciousness that had transformed into the form of a holy light dragon. Origin gold pattern. When he first broke into this place, he had received some information through a mysterious intuition. These golden patterns before him were called origin gold patterns. From the moment every living being was born from the source, these things were carved onto them, serving as innate restrictions and also as bottlenecks for breakthroughs. He had only caught a glimpse of this corner by chance when he was severing the bonds of his dragon lineage. This was a loophole in the source. The entire multiverse, with its trillions upon trillions of living beings, was all under the jurisdiction of the source. No one could see the origin gold patterns on their own body, let alone running directly in front of the golden patterns like he had. Luo Yu knew very well how rare this opportunity was. Even a low-class devil wanting to break through to middle class had to break through the origin gold patterns. Once broken through, they could advance. The stronger a person was, the fewer origin gold patterns they had in their body. Luo Yu's mind raced. Since he could see these origin gold patterns, as long as he found a way to sever them, he could deceive the source to a certain extent. Even if his strength was far from meeting the standard for a breakthrough, the source would deliver the power itself. This was the rule, the iron law of how the source operated. Luo Yu, who could see the origin gold patterns, had essentially found a shortcut. He didn't need to spend tens of thousands of years cultivating arduously. As long as he actively severed the origin gold patterns, he could trick power out of the source. To put it bluntly, it was like fleecing a sheep. However many origin gold patterns he severed, he could siphon that much power from the source. If one day, he could sever all the origin gold patterns, then he would be a true super devil. Not the kind of super devil title called out in this world, but an existence that transcended the source and the entire world. Even the Great Red and Great Red were far from reaching that level. Transcending the source, transcending the world. Such things were too far away for him. The most urgent thing right now was how to sever these origin gold patterns. The endless golden patterns were laid out before him. He had tried when he first entered. But his consciousness could not touch them at all, not even a graze. An external force was required. Luo Yu had been pondering this for the past few days. Since the power that exploded during his breakthrough could push the origin gold patterns open, it meant this place was not completely sealed off. The energy crystal he swallowed before entering was now the only breakthrough point. Luo Yu split his consciousness into two, half remained here, and the other half returned to his physical body. He suspected that when he had crashed in just now, he might have coincidentally created a crack. As long as he found that crack, blasted it open, and used the consciousness on both sides to mark it, he could locate the target. Boost. As soon as his consciousness returned to his body, Luo Yu felt as if his whole being was about to be blown apart by that energy. This thing was definitely not power that a holy light dragon could use. Even with the boosted gear helping to disperse it, there was no way to refine or absorb it. He gritted his teeth, steadied his mind, and little by little, guided the violent energy, pushing it toward that faint, elusive point of perception. 10 minutes passed. Luo Yu was covered in blood, his body bloated by the energy. The entire room was filled with the smell of blood, he was basically a bloody mess. That was how he looked on the outside, and it was even worse on the inside. His internal organs were battered into a mess, with injuries everywhere. If it hadn't been for Didrag, who resided in the boosted gear, constantly helping him suppress it, his dragon body would likely have exploded long ago. Didrag also knew that without using such a risky method, there was no way to touch the space where the origin gold patterns were located. 30 minutes passed. Luo Yu still hadn't found the entrance. He clearly felt it was right in front of him, yet he just couldn't get in. His mind was beginning to daze, he couldn't hold on much longer. Another 10 minutes passed. The injuries inside his body were becoming increasingly severe. Didrag had already warned him twice that it was best to give up. If this continued, he would really lose his life. Luo Yu was furious. He had caused himself such severe injuries, yet he hadn't gained anything. Forget it. I'll talk about it later. The worst that happens is I'll just spend the next few months lying down to heal. He was just about to have the boosted gear forcefully disperse the energy when, suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. A wisp was missing. That's right. When the energy flowed past his heart, a wisp of it had been swallowed by something. A wisp so small it was almost imperceptible. Luo Yu had circled this spot several times. If he hadn't been preparing to press that massive amount of energy here and forcefully blast it away with the boosted gear, he would never have noticed anything amiss. This is it. He carefully sensed it for a few seconds, and another wisp of energy was gone. It hadn't dissipated naturally, nor had it been refined, it had simply vanished into thin air. Vaguely, he caught a trace of a familiar aura, the scent of his other consciousness. Luo Yu knew what was going on. The crack that had opened by chance was right here. He had guessed correctly. Back when he used Dragon Eater Samael to sever the shackles of his dragon lineage, it had indeed shaken open a crack, piercing through a loophole in the source. Blast it open for me. Luo Yu gritted his teeth and roared in his heart. The violent energy surged like a giant wave, one after another, slamming fiercely into the location he had locked onto. Crack. The sound of the crack was very faint. A dozen or so wisps of energy were swallowed, and this time he could feel it clearly. Luo Yu felt a surge of joy, the path was right. Although the part of his consciousness on the side of the origin gold patterns didn't see the energy seeping in, that didn't mean it wasn't there. In this almost endless dark space, a few extra wisps of energy might have dissipated on their own as soon as they appeared. Crack. The sound was a bit louder this time. The swallowed energy began to pour in like a stream, and the pressure on his body also lightened significantly. Keep smashing. Crack. 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 A series of cracking sounds rang out, and more energy was being swallowed. Until a bang exploded, echoing from within Luo Yu's body. A vortex resembling a black hole suddenly appeared beside his heart, swallowing that massive amount of energy in one go, and then the vortex closed. Luo Yu could feel that this passageway had become a fixed bridge. He could open it whenever he wanted and use it at any time. From the perspective of his consciousness on the side of the origin gold patterns, Luo Yu saw a different scene. The dark space shook violently, a corner cracked open, and energy poured down like a waterfall. As if the origin gold patterns had suction, that massive amount of energy transformed into a flood dragon, roaring as it pounced toward the origin gold patterns right before it. Bang! One origin gold pattern shattered. The flood dragon instantly shrank by a quarter. It wasn't over yet. The flood dragon continued to rush forward, breaking 3 more origin gold patterns in succession before completely dissipating. Luo Yu's consciousness retracted. A vast and boundless consciousness descended, as if the entire universe, the entire world, had pressed down. A person's insignificance was not even comparable to a speck of dust. This was the source core of the multiverse. Under the gaze of that will, cold sweat poured down Luo Yu's body. If that entity just had a thought, let alone him, even the entire 3 realms would be wiped out. His heart skipped a beat. Could it be that I've been exposed? Fortunately, that spine-chilling gaze didn't last long. Luo Yu finally breathed a sigh of relief. Immediately after, an indescribable energy suddenly surged into his body. That energy carried the aura of the beginning of heaven and earth. Just by smelling it, all living beings would instinctively want to get close to it. Luo Yu felt all the pores on his body instantly open. That source power was cleansing every part of his body. Cells, fibers, bones, muscles, and it didn't even spare his dragon soul. That feeling of floating in ecstasy almost made him completely sink into it. His strength began to skyrocket crazily. Mao class mid-stage, high level. Mao class peak. Mao class high stage, middle level. 4 origin gold patterns represent 4 minor realms. Luo Yu felt the surging power within him and was overjoyed. He had jumped 4 minor stages in one breath, from Mao class mid-stage, middle level, and firmly stepped into the Mao class high stage, middle level. The most crucial thing was that there were no side effects at all. Moreover, the improvement was all-encompassing. His innate dragon soul had also become stronger, and even the bloodline of the Holy Light Dragon had made a slight improvement under the nourishment of the source power. It seems I need to find more things with massive amounts of energy in the future. Luo Yu immediately set a cultivation path for himself. He was going to fleece the source for all it was worth. How much time and energy could this shortcut save? Why not do it? Within one day, Luo Yu swallowed every single treasure containing high energy that he had scavenged from traveling across the 3 realms over the years. Nearly 100 origin gold patterns were severed by him. But the improvement in strength left him greatly disappointed. In the end, he only managed to reach the Mao class peak. He had originally thought that he would at least be able to break through to the Super Devil level. Only now did he understand that things were not as simple as he had thought. At the very least, to break through from Mao class to Super Devil, one needed to sever more than 100 origin gold patterns. Compared to the Mao class level, this gap was nearly 100 times greater. He didn't know the situation below the Mao class. Perhaps for one major realm, severing just 1 origin gold pattern was enough. At daybreak, Luo Yu sat by the window and exhaled. The hundreds of drops of dragon lineage blood essence in his hands still had great uses, otherwise, he would have swallowed them long ago to sever those origin gold patterns. Forget it, that's it for today. In the future, I still need to find ways to get more cultivation resources. He looked out the window. The sky was already turning white. It was early morning. Having been cooped up in the room for 2 days, if he didn't show his face, Sona and the others would start worrying blindly again. Those few people watched him extremely closely, as if they were afraid that if they weren't careful, he would disappear without a trace and come back covered in the Dragon Slayer curse. It seemed that the last incident had really frightened them quite a bit. Just as he was thinking, a furious shout suddenly exploded, enveloping the entire villa and piercing their eardrums. Red Dragon Emperor, get out here. The three people doing morning exercises, Tsubaki Shinra, and Raya Kusaka, stiffened simultaneously. Is someone here to cause trouble for Master again? I hope it's not like last time. That great war, with gods, dragon clans, devils, all mixed together in a chaotic brawl, just thinking about it made their backs run cold. Tsubaki Shinra immediately drew her long sword, scanning the surroundings vigilantly, trying to find where the voice was coming from. The three of them soon saw a young girl a few years older than them, hovering above the villa. Her twin tails were fluttering in the wind, her face was quite pretty, and she was dressed in a magical girl outfit that accentuated her curvaceous figure. But her eyes were full of fire, as if she wanted to tear someone to pieces. Sister! A startled cry came from behind, filled with shock. It was Sona. She stared at the woman in the sky with a look of confusion and shock. The president's sister. Tsubaki Shinra and Raya Kusaka were both stunned. Master had told them before that the president had a sister named Seraphal Leviathan, one of the four great Satans of the underworld and heir to the Sitri clan. So that meant this girl in the sky, who didn't look much older than them, was actually a devil king of the underworld. Looking at her outfit again, it was far too different from the image of a devil king that Tsubaki Shinra and Raya Kusaka had in their minds. Could it be that devil kings of the underworld were following trends now? But the problem was, since she was the president's sister, why did she come here with such murderous intent to scold Master? What kind of grudge could there be between the two of them? Seraphal. Luo Yu came out as well, frowning as he looked at the angry face in the sky, his mind churning, when had he ever provoked her? Red Dragon Emperor. As soon as Seraphal saw Luo Yu, it was as if she had finally found a target for her vent. She didn't offer a single word of explanation. Her magical power surged violently, and the surrounding temperature plummeted to the bottom. In no time at all, the entire villa was frozen into a block of ice. Even the entire area of Kuo town was affected, as if it had been dragged into a freezing winter of extreme blizzards. This originally peaceful little town really didn't have many days of peace. Sona's expression changed instantly. Her sister was serious. What on earth could have happened to make her this angry? She wanted to stop her, but it was already too late. Butler Izumi also rushed out of the house, looking in shock at the uninvited VIP, wondering why she was at odds with their son-in-law. Balance breaker. The appearance of the boosted gear on his left hand changed abruptly. The balance breaker was activated, and black-red armor instantly covered his entire body, with a pair of pitch-black wings spreading from his back. His aura soared directly to the peak of the Super Devil level. If it were the dragon species form of the balance breaker, he could rush directly to the limit of the Super Devil level. But in humanoid form, he was a step behind. Although he was one tier lower than the murderous Seraphal in the sky, it was enough. To deal with her, there was no need to raise his combat power to that level. Master. Luo Yu's current appearance was exactly the one most familiar in Tsubaki Shinra's memory. It really is you, Red Dragon Emperor. It was all you pulling the strings behind the scenes. Seeing the boosted gear, Seraphal seemed to confirm something, and her rage grew even fiercer. She attacked immediately. With a wave of her magical girl staff, a massive ice sphere capable of crushing the entire villa into fragments smashed fiercely toward Luo Yu. This woman is truly willful, not even caring if her attacks hurt others. Luo Yu frowned, raised his finger, and tapped lightly at the ice sphere. He only spat out 2 words. Black water. A pitch-black giant wave surged out of thin air like a dragon. This was the ability of the primordial dragon of darkness, Apophis, black water that devours and corrodes everything. Because its function overlapped somewhat with the Crimson Emperor Flame, he rarely used this move in battle. But right now, using black water to completely swallow Seraphal's attack was the only way to prevent Tsubaki Shinra and the others from being hurt by the aftermath. As soon as the ice sphere touched the black water, it was swallowed up completely in no time, and the black water grew even larger, rushing toward Seraphol. The ability of the primordial dragon of darkness, Apophis. Seraphol relaxed slightly. She had been a bit impulsive just now, almost dragging little Sona into it. But seeing the black water rushing toward her, she immediately frowned and hurriedly dodged. Getting distracted during a fight is not a good habit, Devil King. Luo Yu had already flashed instantly in front of her, throwing punch after punch, slamming heavily into the sky. Every punch was wrapped in crimson gold holy flame. That was a power that was extremely effective against devils. Seraphol had lived long enough. She had experienced the Great War, and she had survived the bloody infighting within the devils. Being able to sit on the throne of a devil king relied on true ability. She flipped and flew in the air, casting ice-type magic one after another, every move precise and ruthless. Luo Yu's attacks were blocked by her one by one, and she countered with a torrent of ice. The sky completely exploded into chaos. On one side were rolling heat waves of flame, and on the other, bone-chilling cold. The two forces collided in midair, neither giving way to the other. Sona stood below, sweating with anxiety. She couldn't make sense of the situation at all. Why did her sister suddenly storm into the human world? Looking at the situation, it was clearly aimed at Luo Yu. The two were locked in a fierce battle. Red light and blue light collided crazily in the air. Every impact seemed like it would tear a hole in the sky. The sky was smashed into black holes, appearing in patches like tattered cloth. Seraphol was indeed a cut above Luo Yu. But she hadn't expected the three powers Luo Yu possessed, black water, Crimson Emperor Flame, and Crimson Gold Holy Flame, to be so troublesome. Especially that Crimson Gold Holy Flame. This thing was even more overbearing than holy power, even a devil of her level couldn't withstand it. When the flames burned over, she felt her body trembling. That sensation was even more agonizing than the Crimson Emperor Flame. If it weren't for the fact that the corrosion curse of the boosted gear wasn't easy to activate, she probably wouldn't have lasted this long. Luo Yu didn't want to drag this out any longer. If it weren't for the fact that she was one of the four great Satans of the underworld, and if she weren't Sona's own sister, he would have wiped her out with one Eternal Kingdom move long ago. However, it wasn't too late to use it now. Divine Art, Eternal Kingdom. Seraphol's face turned pale instantly. She was all too familiar with this move. During the Great War, the God of the Bible used this move to kill countless devil warriors. The only reason she survived was pure luck. Sister. Sona screamed in fear. Although she wasn't entirely sure how powerful the Eternal Kingdom was, she knew that Luo Yu used this move to destroy Hades, god of the underworld, and even wiped out the entire underworld with it. Second young lady, the son-in-law should know his limits. Butler Izumi quickly soothed her from the side. No matter how strong the eldest young lady was, it was impossible for her to be stronger than Hades, god of the underworld. Seraphol gritted her teeth, her face full of defiance. Even if Luo Yu was strong, he couldn't be an opponent capable of killing a super devil, right? If he really wanted to deal a lethal blow, the son-in-law should have won long ago. The next scene was exactly as Butler Izumi had said. A kingdom suddenly condensed over Kuo town, vast and magnificent, with a holy aura sweeping down and covering everything. However, this eternal kingdom was incomplete, only showing one layer, far inferior to the might of the nine-layered kingdom when he wiped out Hades, god of the underworld before. The degree of solidity was also significantly lacking. But even so, the town residents were dumbfounded, each looking up at this scene that resembled a divine miracle. The appearance of the Eternal Kingdom also alarmed Rias Grimori and Akino Himahima. It's that fool Luo Yu again. Rias Grimori looked annoyed. Ever since she came to Kuo town for training, she hadn't had a single day of peace. She turned her head to look at Akino Himahima beside her, who was full of worry and looked like she wanted to break through the window and rush out, and said irritably, "Relax, your little lover won't die. That magical power is from Seraphol, Sona's sister, she won't fight to the death like before." The more Rias Grimori talked, the angrier she got. I really don't know what's so good about that fool, same with you, and Sona too. A few days ago, Sona even came to ask you, her love rival, inquiring about what flavors that fool likes to eat. Era. Hearing that Luo Yu was fine, Akino uttered her habitual catchphrase again, smiling and saying, Rias Grimori, you don't understand, this is the world of adults. Akino, I remember you're a few months younger than me, right? Rias Grimori glanced at her sideways. That fool actually looks down on me. Serafal looked at the single-layered eternal kingdom in the sky, feeling severely humiliated. Her strength was indeed not as good as this fool's, but she didn't believe she couldn't even break this half-baked eternal kingdom. Serafal erupted with all her magical power at once. The extreme cold aura exploded instantly, freezing 10,000 miles, and the entire sky was frozen solid. Even the eternal kingdom summoned by Luo Yu was frozen inside. But she didn't get to be happy for long. Luo Yu curled the corner of his mouth and raised his hand gently. The frozen eternal kingdom suddenly erupted with terrifying holy power, shattering all the ice with a boom. Serafal's expression changed drastically. Before she could react, the eternal kingdom crashed down directly, pressing heavily onto the ground. Boom! She was firmly pinned down by the shrunk eternal kingdom, lying on the ground in a wretched state, unable to move even a finger. Serafal desperately tried to mobilize her magical power, but let alone moving it away, she couldn't even shift it by a centimeter. Serafal, I don't recall offending you, do I? Luo Yu deactivated the balance breaker and the boosted gear armor, landing steadily in front of the villa. He looked down at Serafal, who was pressed under the ruins, the other party glaring at him with a face full of anger, and he felt somewhat puzzled. He carefully thought about the grudges between himself and the underworld. It was nothing more than messing with devil reincarnation technology, and then slaughtering a few pure-blooded devils. What did these things have to do with Serafal? Red Dragon Emperor, you fool, how dare you play innocent? Serafal cursed, her voice filled with unspeakable grievance. Don't you know what you've done? You really are a sinister villain. Seeing that she still had the energy to yell, Sona finally felt a bit more at ease. She didn't want Luo Yu to get hurt, but she was also afraid of her sister getting injured. Sister. Little Sona, your sister is too useless. Seeing her sister, Serafal's expression suddenly became pitiful. I couldn't even save you from that hateful man. Luo Yu stood to the side, speechless. It was as if he had done something wrong. It was clearly this willful and reckless devil king young lady who came to provoke him herself, and he had already been merciful enough by not beating her to death like he did his other mortal enemies. Luo Yu, release my sister first. Sona pleaded. Luo Yu didn't say any more nonsense and directly dispelled the eternal kingdom pressing down on Serafal. Sona helped her disheveled sister up, her face full of confusion. Sister, what on earth happened? Why did you suddenly come to the human world? The four great Satans had an overwhelming amount of business to handle every day. Especially Serafal, who was in charge of diplomacy. It was impossible for her to come to the human world unless something major had happened. Little Sona. Serafal hesitated for a long time, speaking in a stammer. She glared fiercely at Luo Yu. Luo Yu was completely baffled. Sister might have to live with little Sona from now on. Sona and the others were all stunned. A prestigious Mao of the underworld, not staying properly in the underworld, but moving to the human world to live. Sona suddenly thought of something. She extended her finger and lightly tapped Serafal on the forehead. Serafal wanted to dodge, but it was already too late. The chains of the contract appeared instantly. Compared to when she last saw it, there was a huge change, the patterns had become dense and intricate. As expected, the contract has strengthened again, Sona said softly. With this happening for the second time, it could no longer be explained away with light words like coincidence or accident. There must be a deeper reason behind it. The other end of the contract was Luo Yu. And Luo Yu, as it happened, was the Red Dragon Emperor. This deep-seated reason was 100% on him. Sona's gaze was clear, filled with both suspicion and certainty. The contract on Serafal's forehead had strengthened, and this was a responsibility Luo Yu could not escape. Luo Yu, do you have nothing to say? Sona asked, her tone calm as she stared at him. Luo Yu coughed twice and spoke with a wry smile. Let's get this straight. I didn't know about this at the beginning either. He paused and continued. When I broke through to the Mao class, I discovered a fragment of a holy sword embedded in my body. It was the hilt of the first holy sword. I just casually fused it into the boosted gear. The result, as you can see, was that the contract strengthened for the first time, extending directly from me to Serafal. Tsubaki Shinra and the others listened, their expressions becoming very subtle. The way they looked at their master was as if they were looking at a scumbag. Luo Yu ignored those gazes and continued. This time, after I severed the shackles on those dragon reincarnation, I casually fused the useless Dragon Eater Samael into the boosted gear as well. The gauntlet jumped from an elite sacred gear directly to an ultimate class sacred gear on par with the true Longinus. The vessel became stronger, so naturally, the contract strengthened along with it. After the explanation, Sona was silent for a long while. Serafal was still glaring at Luo Yu, gnashing her teeth, wishing she could swallow him whole. Now that the contract vessel had become an ultimate class sacred gear, she wanted to break the contract. There was absolutely no chance. After a while, Sona frowned and asked, my sister's contract has indeed strengthened, but why don't I feel anything on my end? Logically, if the contract were strengthened, her side should have been strengthened synchronously as well. Luo Yu glanced at the contract mark on Sona's forehead. No matter how strong the contract is, it has a limit. The content is the same, only the binding force has increased, the content hasn't changed. He continued. Your side has already reached the maximum reinforcement, it can't be increased further. But your sister's side hasn't reached the ceiling yet. Otherwise, you wouldn't have wanted to take the initiative to share the burden and lighten the binding force on her side earlier. After hearing this, Sona supported her forehead, her tone filled with exhaustion. Is there really no way to break the contract on my sister's forehead? Luo Yu spread his hands. At least from my end, there's nothing I can do. Luo Yu spread his hands, making a helpless expression. This gesture ignited Serafal's anger again, and she glared at him fiercely. However, Luo Yu ignored her and instead turned to look in a certain direction, saying, You've been hiding for so long, are you not going to reveal yourself, Mao? Sona was stunned. Serafal was also taken aback, could it be that someone else had followed them? Just then, a man with an alluring appearance slowly manifested before them. Lord Ajuka Beelzebub! Sona exclaimed. Butler Izumi and the other devils immediately bowed. The person who arrived was none other than one of the four great Satans, Ajuka Beelzebub. He was the other super devil in the underworld besides Sears X Lucifer, proficient in magic circles and programming, and also the creator of the devil reincarnation technology. Tsubaki Shinra and the other two were shocked. They didn't expect that after staying in the human world for one day, they would actually see two Maos. Ajuka Beelzebub, you actually followed me secretly. Serafal was startled at first, then complained in dissatisfaction. You rushed out of the New Mao castle in a hurry. Sears X Lucifer was worried something might happen to you, so he asked me to come and check, Ajuka Beelzebub explained. Serafal knew this was their good intention, so she didn't say anything more. When we last met, you were only at the strength of an ultimate class devil, but now you've reached the peak of the Mao class. It's truly terrifying. Ajuka Beelzebub looked at Luo Yu, his eyes full of amazement. Such a rate of improvement was something few in the ancient era could achieve. Especially when the four great emperors went to ambush Hades, the Red Dragon Emperor only had the strength of the mid-Mao class. It hadn't even been a month, and he had jumped directly to the peak of the Mao class. With such a large span, his aura was not the least bit unstable. This was the scariest part. However, Ajuka Beelzebub also understood that existences like the Red Dragon Emperor could not be judged by common sense. Speaking of the last time he saw this Mao, Luo Yu's expression became a bit subtle. That time, he was stealing the devil reincarnation technology. He had indeed been discovered, but he didn't know why this Mao hadn't stepped in to stop him at the time. Red Dragon Emperor, is there really no way to break the contract on Serafal? Ajuka Beelzebub asked, repeating Sona's previous question. Sarah Fall's contract contained a requirement for 3 years of cohabitation, and if she disobeyed, she would suffer a backlash. However, as one of the 4 great Satans of the underworld, she had her own work and could not stay in the human world for too long. If you could destroy the boosted gear, perhaps the contract would be broken, Luo Yu said with a smirk. Red Dragon Emperor, you really know how to joke. Ajuka Beelzebub shook his head lightly, his tone calm. To break the contract, shattering the boosted gear was indeed one way. But if they really did that, the Red Dragon Emperor would likely be the first to fight him to the death. Wouldn't it be simpler to just kill you, the contractor? Sarah Fall gritted her teeth, her tone full of displeasure. Luo Yu wasn't angry, instead, he replied with a smile. If I were to actually die, the boosted gear would fall into the hands of the heaven system and pick a new host. At that point, the contract might just follow it. You had better hope I stay alive, otherwise, your troubles will be even greater. If it weren't for Sona holding her back tightly, Seraphal would have rushed up to attack again. Luo Yu glanced at her and said nothing more. After hearing that line about the contract transfer, Ajuka Beelzebub understood clearly. The Red Dragon Emperor was just teasing her. The boosted gear had long since been modified by him to be completely different. Now that the heaven system managed by that god was gone, even if this generation's Red Dragon Emperor were to fall, the gauntlet wouldn't necessarily recognize a new master. Furthermore, how could this generation's Red Dragon Emperor die so easily? It might even be that this was not only the strongest Red Dragon Emperor but also the last one. As for Seraphall's matter, they could only find a compromise. The cohabitation mentioned in the contract didn't mean they had to be glued together 24 hours a day. Last time Luo Yu went to the underworld to ambush god of the underworld Hades, he was gone for several days. Sona was fine, and the contract didn't backlash. Red Dragon Emperor, could we go somewhere else to talk? Ajuka Beelzebub asked. He had come today to prevent anything from happening to Seraphal. But since he had met the Red Dragon Emperor, he could take this opportunity to clarify some things. Luo Yu nodded and gave a look to Sona and the others, signaling that it was fine. A green magic circle suddenly lit up beneath their feet, and the 2 figures vanished instantly. The ocean, an endless expanse of sea, blue as it merged with the sky. The sea breeze was salty, and waves crashed onto the beach layer after layer. The figures of Luo Yu and Ajuka Beelzebub slowly appeared on the shore. You even avoided Seraphal. Mao, the matter you want to discuss must be significant, Luo Yu said casually, gazing at the horizon where the sea met the sky. A private matter, and a question. Is the private matter your own affair? Ajuka Beelzebub nodded. That dragon reincarnation thing, could you let me see it? You set the terms, as long as I can provide it and do it, it's yours to choose. That's quite a bold claim. Luo Yu was stunned for a moment, secretly clicking his tongue in his heart. This was the promise of a super devil, the weight was terrifyingly heavy. He waved his hand, his tone casual, forget about the terms. The dragon reincarnation was originally created on the basis of the devil reincarnation technology. The fact that I succeeded is thanks to you. Let's just consider it repaying that favor from back then. Once he finished speaking, Luo Yu directly mobilized his arcane magic, packaged the entire set of dragon reincarnation technology, and transmitted it into Ajuka Beelzebub's mind. Ever since he had glimpsed the origin gold pattern, some things had long since ceased to be important to him. For example, the method to sever the shackles of the dragon species. Or, for instance, this dragon reincarnation right now. Ajuka Beelzebub had absolutely no idea about these inner details. Luo Yu being so straightforward actually made him a bit bewildered. Was the Red Dragon Emperor not afraid that someone would use this technology to devise a killing move against him? Was he truly confident enough to withstand it, or did he have other motives? He said in a deep voice, Red Dragon Emperor, I will only study this here and pick out the scraps that are useful for the devil reincarnation technology. When I leave here, I will personally erase this memory from my mind. Regardless of what the other party thought, he had to make this clear. Luo Yu saw through his thoughts and didn't explain much. He just leaned to the side, letting the sea breeze blow, and waited quietly for Ajuka Beelzebub to close his eyes and finish reviewing the dragon reincarnation data in his mind. An hour passed. Ajuka Beelzebub opened his eyes abruptly, a flash of shock appearing deep in his eyes. The dragon reincarnation was indeed profound, but to him, it wasn't that he couldn't understand or grasp it. Furthermore, one-third of it was very similar to the devil reincarnation technology. What truly shocked him was the level of danger of this thing. The Red Dragon Emperor hadn't done any experiments and had managed to complete the dragon reincarnation single-handedly. This was simply having incredible luck while walking on the edge of a cliff. One had to know that for the devil reincarnation technology to succeed, it had cost tens of thousands of lives to stack up. If someone were to honestly follow the steps of the dragon reincarnation, just the first step, using the essence blood of a dragon species to initiate the reincarnation, would likely cause a large number of people to die first. By the second step, seizing the original dragon soul, that was a head-on clash of willpower. Not everyone could be like the Red Dragon Emperor, alive and beating the dragon soul into submission and snatching it. This step could force almost everyone to a dead end. As for the third step, severing the shackles of the dragon species, it actually seemed the easiest now. Ajuka Beelzebub stared at Luo Yu, his tone complex. You really are a monster with heaven-defying luck. That's the end of part 4. Part 5 is coming soon.
Thanks for watching my video. Please like and share it.